I'm George Cordes, Artistic Director of the Adirondack Lakes Center for the Arts in beautiful Blue Mountain Lake, New York, in the heart of the Adirondacks. I'd like to welcome you to the latest live stream event in our ALCA-Seltzer series, Relief from the Headaches of Social Distancing. During its 53-year history, the Arts Center's mission has always been to promote and celebrate the arts and arts-related experiences, not only in our beloved historic building, but throughout our region. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck, we began this online series so that we could continue to connect with our audiences, both near and far, despite the fact that for everyone's safety, we are temporarily unable to gather here in person. Our virtual series this summer includes music, workshops, the visual arts, and even elements of our Adirondack Lake Summer Theater Festival, a wide range of activities that reflects what the Arts Center has offered and will offer again once the danger of COVID-19 has passed. Thanks to all of the talented folks who have been and will be part of our series, and to you, our supporters, though we currently come into your homes through your smartphones, laptops, and other devices, we look forward to when we can all meet again in person.
My name is Madeleine Jansen, and I am a violinist and doctoral student. I'm very excited to share with you 4 pieces for solo violin today, pieces that I picked because I think they show the true range of what a single unaccompanied instrument is able to do. I am performing this concert in my home in New York City, so you might hear some car noises or cat noises in the background at some point. But sadly, this is the first summer in 7 years that I have not spent in the Adirondacks. I'm the string department coordinator and violin faculty at the Luzerne Music Center in Lake Luzerne, which is a fabulous summer music camp for students who come from all over the world to play music together. So of course we had to cancel this summer because of the pandemic, and while it's very sad to not all be together performing music, we are continuing our programming, though virtually. So if you enjoy summer virtual concerts, please tune in to our Facebook page. We will be featuring faculty and students through August in live concerts. So the first piece I'm performing today is the Telemann Fantasia in E-flat major, number 7. George Telemann was a late Baroque composer from Germany who is actually very good friends with Johann Sebastian Bach. So you'll notice his style sounds like what you might expect from the late Baroque era. That is, this piece is written in the typical form that you would find. It starts with a slow first movement, goes on to a lively fast second movement, followed by a slow third movement, back to a fast fourth movement. So within this structure, Telemann actually employed a popular compositional technique at the time, and he incorporated well-known dance movements into the piece. So if you listen carefully, the third movement is a sarabande, which is a slow dance in 3/4 time with a strong emphasis on the second beat. And the fourth movement is a gavotte, which is where I will play 2 lively pickups to a strong downbeat. And so if you listen for those beats or step patterns, you'll notice that these are indeed dance movements. This piece is also what we might call the galant style, which is sort of a border genre between Baroque and the classical era, aka Mozart, Beethoven, etc. And so you'll hear a lot of lighthearted, very clear textures and lines, and you'll hear that I do the typical Baroque thing where in the repeated sections I add ornaments and embellishments just to make it a little bit more fun. So I hope you enjoy the Telemann Fantasia number 7 in E-flat major. the next piece on my program, we'll move forward about 200 years to the 20th century with the music of Astor Piazzolla. So Piazzolla was born in 1921 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, but as a child he actually moved right here to New York City. So he grew up in the Lower East Side, and he was exposed early on to the music of Argentinian bandoneon players. His father was a big fan of the tango, and so they were constantly listening to those records in his home, and at an early age he was exposed to some of the biggest tango stars living here in New York City. So while his background is in tango music, Piazzolla actually really wanted to be renowned as a classical composer. So as a young man he moved to Paris and he studied with the great Nadia Boulanger. And so she is the composition teacher who was responsible for producing some of the greatest composers of the 20th century. For example, Aaron Copland, Piazzolla, of course, Elliott Carter, I believe. So what she really encouraged was all of these composers to find their own voice and their own unique compositional style. So when he went to her, he really, he wanted to be rooted in the classical tradition, and she made all her students study the counterpoint of Bach and the harmonies of Mozart and Beethoven, but she really, above all, encouraged them to find their individual voices. So for a while, things weren't going so well. She thought his music was too derivative of other composers at the time, and then one day he brought her a tango that he had composed, and she said, "This is your voice." And so from that point on, she helped him to develop what eventually became known as the Nueva Tango style, a compositional style that he pioneered, which incorporated traditional elements of tango with new, things you wouldn't normally find, like the use of electric guitars, different experimental instrumentation, and of course all of these classical elements that he picked up from his studies with Ms. Boulanger. So you will notice, if you listen carefully, that the music is influenced by Bach. You can hear the sort of fugal counterpoint writing in the running notes that you would find in a Bach fugue. And interestingly, I'm playing two of the tangos from his collection of 6 tango dances for solo violin or flute. And if you know anything about Bach, you know that he wrote 6 sonatas and partitas for the solo violin. So that connection seems really intentional. So the first one I'll play is a slow, sort of smoky, unfolding, beautiful melody. And then the next one is a very lively, fast tango, which has sort of a reflective section in the middle. So I hope you enjoy these 2 tangos for solo violin or flute by Astor Piazzolla.
You have been watching a special live stream brought to you by the Adirondack Lakes Center for the Arts. I'm George Cordes, Artistic Director of the Arts Center, and if you'd like to see both our virtual and eventually live programming continue, please consider making a donation. Go to our website, adirondackarts.org, and press the Donate button. While you're there, be sure to check out everything else we have going on this summer, including our ALCA-Seltzer shorts, ALCA-Seltzer workshops, and our first virtual gallery exhibit featuring the fantastical artwork of Sarah Price.
Hello and welcome. If you are just tuning in, my name is Madeleine Jansen and I am a violinist performing from my home in New York City, a program of all solo music for the violin. So the next piece on my program is also by a German Baroque composer, but in my opinion sounds totally different from the Telemann that I performed earlier on this program. The next piece is the Passacaglia by Heinrich Ignaz Franz Bieber, who lived about 50 years earlier than Telemann. He wrote this piece in the 1670s. So Bieber was a star violinist. He was considered one of the great virtuosic violinists of his day, and he really expanded what it meant to be a violinist and what a violin was capable of, both in his own playing and technique and also in his compositions. So this work is the last in his collection of what are known as the Mystery Sonatas, which was a collection of 15 works he wrote for the solo violin. In the other sonatas, not this one, he employed a technique called scordatura, where he detuned certain strings to create kind of crazy chords that wouldn't have been possible with the traditional violin tuning. Luckily for me and my intonation, the Passacaglia I'm about to play is tuned with the standard tuning. So this piece is really interesting in that it is a chaconne. A Passacaglia and a chaconne are generally used interchangeably. And again, sticking with the theme of tonight's performance, a chaconne is a dance movement. So this piece that you're about to hear sounds very somber and stately, but ironically, chaconnes were actually originally intended to be lively works, usually played by guitarists that originated in the Spanish colonies in the 1500s. So usually these pieces would be played by a guitarist and accompanied by a singer who would usually sing kind of crazy, sometimes suggestive lyrics. It was party music. So when you hear this, you'll be very shocked to hear the origins of the chaconne. So by the time the dance movement got to Germany, composers usually used these pieces as a vehicle to develop a musical theme on a repeating bass line. You will hear me start this piece with 4 descending notes, which will call to mind a lament. It sounds very, almost you can imagine a tear running down someone's face. It's a sort of walking, lamenting bass line downward. And what he does is he takes this bass line and he embellishes it and sort of expands on it. So you will hear that same bass line repeated over and over and over again in the entire duration of this piece, and it's going to be changed and modified and played around with, which is sort of what's cool about this piece. You'll also notice that this piece requires me to shift my hand up on the fingerboard. This was a very big deal in the 1670s. Players tended to stay in the lower positions because they did not have chin rest. This was a later invention. So the fact that Bieber required this of players of this piece was sort of a very innovative technique. So I hope you enjoy the Bieber Passacaglia in G minor. The last piece on my program this evening is by the great Russian 20th century composer Sergei Prokofiev. So this piece is the Solo Violin Sonata in D major, opus 115, and it was composed in 1947. So interestingly enough, and this interests me because I'm a teacher myself, Prokofiev actually wrote this piece intended to be performed by a group class of violins. He was imagining that all of them would perform the piece in unison at the same time. So the piece actually, it disappeared for a few years, and the great violinist Ricci discovered it and recorded it a bit later. And now we typically perform it as a solo violin work. So this piece is an example of Prokofiev using his neoclassical style, which means he was influenced by the music of Mozart and Beethoven and incorporated elements of that into this piece, but still with his characteristic quirkiness that you always find in a Prokofiev piece. So, for example, the first movement is in what we call sonata form, which is just, it means there's a beginning that states the theme, a middle that explores far off keys, and then we come back to the theme again at the end. You would typically find that in a Beethoven sonata, and Prokofiev uses that here. Similarly, with the second movement, it's a theme and variations, which you would also find in a Beethoven sonata. So I play the theme first, and then he changes the theme in each variation to give it a new character. And then finally, the last movement is a dance movement again, and it is sort of a quirky waltz in 3/4 time. So I hope you enjoy the last piece on my program, Prokofiev's Solo Sonata in D major.
been watching a special live stream brought to you by the Adirondack Lakes Center for the Arts. I'm George Cordes, Artistic Director, and if you'd like to see both our virtual and live programming continue, please consider making a donation to the Arts Center. Go to our website, adirondackarts.org, and click on the Donate button. While you're there, be sure to check out everything else we have going on, including our ALCA-Seltzer shorts, workshops, and virtual gallery exhibit. And be sure to watch for all of our live stream events coming up this summer. Thank you and have a great evening.